Hi, and welcome to my YouTube channel, The Intuitive Composer. When I published the last movement of my first symphony a few weeks ago, I promised that my next video would be a bit of a tutorial on how I set up Reaper to do orchestral recording. And there are a couple of things that I do to make the workflows a lot easier, menu item changes and so on. And at the end, I'll tell you what's going to come next in the next two videos, because they are going to be interesting things that make the workflow for Reaper much more efficient. But for today, I want to show you something that I found one of the most freeing parts of being able to do recording, and that is something called retrospective or retroactive recording. So often when I'm playing, and just a minute, I'm going to get rid of this track over here, so just a second. Delete. Often when I am playing and I'm just noodling away at the piano and I have something that I like, if I haven't pushed the record button, it seems to be gone forever. And that may be true in many DAWs, but in Reaper there is such a thing as being able to recover your MIDI keystrokes. And it is an action called retroactive recording. And I'm going to show you how to use this. There are a couple of things we need to do in a preparatory way first. What you need to do before you do anything else is make sure you have downloaded the REAPER and the SWS extensions. You won't need them for this particular video, but they are really an integral part of how we can modify Reaper to suit your own particular needs and your own particular tastes. There are at least a gazillion YouTube videos out there on how to get and use and download and install these things. So go ahead and do that at some point and then come back here and take a look at what I'm doing. So with regard to retrospective recording, the first thing I'm going to do is to go to this main toolbar up here, and I'm going to right click it. And that allows me to customize the toolbar right there. And I'm going to add a new function. And that brings up an action list of all the things that Reaper can do, some of which you'll never know about unless you start looking for them, some of which are part of the menu system and the toolbar icons already. I'm going to search here for retroactive, R-E-T-R-O-A, and look what we have here. So the first toolbar button I'm going to create is one that says Insert all available retroactively recorded MIDI for armed tracks. I'm going to choose that. Select it, close this window, and now we have this action over here. Insert all this. So it says insert all. I'm going to click on that. No, I don't want to do that kind of an icon. I'm going to just click on it, and I'm going to go Edit, Set Tooltip Text Icon. I'm going to call this Retro. Better capitalize it, R-E-T-R-O space all. Apply. Oh, sorry, I gotta go okay there first. Now apply. And now we have it. It says retro all. I'm going to add another button. Add. Type retro up here, R-E-T-R-O. Insert recently retroactively recorded MIDI for armed tracks. I'm going to choose that one. Select, close this window. There it is. It says Insert Recent. I've clicked on it. I'm going to go Edit, change the text icon, and I'm going to call it Retro Recent, R-C-N-T. Otherwise it doesn't show up. Retro Recent. And I'm going to do one more. Add. Retro. Clear retroactive MIDI history. That's a dangerous one because it gets rid of every keystroke you've done. But occasionally, if you've got a long project and you want to get rid of things, that's the way to do it. And I'm going to leave that at Clear Retro. And now let's go back over here where these things are, and I'm going to change the order. Retro All is going to be on top. Retro Recent is going to be next. And the Clear, I'm going to take out of that area and put it up over here. And you can see it appear over there. So I have Retro All, Retro Recent, and Retro Clear, and that keeps it out of the usual movement of my mouse and those buttons so I don't hit it accidentally. I'm going to apply, hit OK, and now I have those things right here. Retro All, Retro Recent, Retro Clear. Let's see how this works. I'm going to add a virtual instrument to Reaper. This is the area where I would do that. You do it by right-clicking, insert virtual instrument on new track, and I'm going to use, it comes up with any possible virtual instruments. I'm going to use Sforzando because it is simple and easy for demonstration purposes. And I'm going to add a piano that came with Garriton Personal Orchestra 5. There's keyboards, and I'm going to take a piano that is relatively quick to load, and there it is. And I have sound, and that's good. A couple of things you need to check to make sure that you will have sound. Make sure that the routing shows, if I click on that, that master send channel is on, so that it is sending it to the outputs of Reaper. And make sure that your MIDI in, if I click that, input MIDI, and it has all my possible MIDI inputs over here. If you don't see anything here, you go to Preferences, Options, Preferences, and there's the top, General and Project and Devices, MIDI inputs. Make sure your keyboards and various other MIDI input devices are enabled over here. I've just disabled them. Now I'm enabling them again. And when that's done, then you know that this will work, and if I play the piano, it works. So, supposing I am just noodling along playing the piano. Not particularly fantastic, but supposing I decide that I really like that and I want to save it, but oh no, I didn't push the record button. It's gone forever. Well, not with retroactive recording. If I click this track and I go to Retro All, look what it does. It puts out all the MIDI that I just produced. So I was testing it at the beginning to make sure it was working, and then there was a lot of time when I was just talking. And if I go to here and start to play it, so if I wanted to keep that, I would simply go here and hit S to split that. I would get rid of this. I could take this all the way back to the beginning, and there I got my clip. All right, let's start playing again. And again, I'm not pushing the record button. I'm just going to play. Now I have two choices. I can go Retro All, which I will do in a minute, or I can do Retro Recent. Retro Recent will put in what I've just done. Let's do that. Make sure this track is highlighted, click Retro Recent, and there it is. We can play it. Oops, let's open the MIDI up. Sometimes it doesn't work properly. There. Now, if I had hit Retro All, it would have given me everything. The first part and the second part and the noodling at the very beginning and all the space in between. So Retro All is there. And if I hit Retro Clear, there's nothing left in that buffer. And if I hit Retro All again, nothing comes out. And that's how it works. So why is this important? Well, I've found that when I hit the record button, something happens to my psyche. The metronome starts going off and I start thinking, oh, I'm recording now and this is important and I have to get it right. When I'm just noodling, I feel free. I don't have the metronome on. I'm not recording per se. I'm just fooling around. And the ability just to be intuitive, to experiment, to fool around, it makes it much easier to do that. You can always go back and edit it afterwards so that if you're not sure what chord you want to hit or what note you want to hit, you can go back and edit the MIDI afterwards. But I find that when you're sitting there and you're just thinking and not actually recording, it's a much more effective way of getting music in that is more intuitive, less mechanical, and a little less scary. So that's retroactive recording or retrospective recording in MIDI. The next two videos will be tutorials on how I modify this toolbar up here to be able to manage some of the difficult parts of dealing with a large orchestral project, a 30-track orchestral project. And the last one will be when I look at the MIDI editor. I'm going to make that bigger. And I have there's a toolbar for the MIDI editor over here. Let me just let me show you. I'm going to dock the MIDI editor. That's going to be the best way to do this. Dock it right there. So there's a toolbar for the MIDI editor. I'm just going to move it around so you can see. That's the MIDI editor toolbar right over here. And there's some things I've done to this to be able to make it much more effective to edit the MIDI. And in particular, to take parts that are chorded and turn them into individual instrument tracks for orchestration. And that's a job of grunt work at the best of times, but there are tips and tricks for doing that turn it, if not into a joy, at least make it not so onerous. So that's coming up in the next few videos. Stick around, and I will have those out in the next couple of days. Thank you for watching. See you soon.